Arts, Humanities, and Technology at UT Dallas, and I'll be offering a few greetings and framing remarks on behalf of the Teach and Planning Collective before I turn things over to our guest moderator for today, Dr. Tori Krops. First, a few quick notes about Teams. If you're new to the platform, if closed captioning is something that would be useful to you, you can get those going by clicking, I believe, on the three dots toward the top of your screen that say More, and then selecting Live Captioning. I also wanted to note that we are recording today's event and we will upload it to YouTube later. So if you prefer to stay offline, you can just keep your camera off and contribute in the chat, and any comments in the chat or questions will not be publicly visible. All right, so those were the main things of business that I wanted to mention. I also want to start by recognizing and giving a huge thanks to our co-sponsors for this event. The School of Arts, Humanities, and Technology is always very supportive of this series, but today we have a special co-sponsor from the Office of Sustainability here at UT Dallas. And I want to especially thank a student who works in that office, Gwen Shawless, who did an immense and inspiring amount of labor organizing today's event. So thank you, Gwen, and thank you, Office of Sustainability. I also wanted to mention that today's event is an intro of sorts to Earth Week, which is happening next week. And the Office of Sustainability has put together a really exciting schedule of events, volunteering opportunities, tours of campus sustainability efforts, an Earth Fair next Thursday. So there's a lot of exciting stuff planned for Earth Week, and I believe that in the chat you can find a link to more information about that. So this Teach-In series was launched by a group of staff, faculty, and students in the summer of 2020 amidst the national call for accountability following the police killing of George Floyd, and a lot of interest in sort of reckoning with ways that racism, injustice, and other kinds of oppression affect us in our very local communities, as well as in connection with wider events nationally and globally. And so the idea behind this series was to create a space where the UT Dallas community could connect with local activists and artists who are doing inspiring work to make our world a more just place. We see this series as a way of really building bridges that connect university resources and expertise to the expertise and resources of our wider communities. So today's event is a great example of more of UT Dallas learning from our community than vice versa, but we're so thrilled to it. You can check out on our YouTube page for videos from previous events, which have covered things like disability justice, border policing, reproductive justice, discrimination against folks of Asian and Pacific Island descent, and many other urgent issues. So this series has been generously supported by the School of Arts, Humanities, Technology, and I'll also just mention that we receive a lot of support from our community, our attendees. We're committed to honoring the time and generosity of our speakers by providing modest honoraria. So I believe that we'll also be putting a link in the chat in case anyone here is interested in providing a donation to help us keep doing so for future events. But we certainly don't expect that. We know that we all have to be very mindful of the cost of things these days. So your presence is a great contribution alone. I think those were the main things that I wanted to say as words of welcome. Thank you again for being with us. A huge thanks to all of our guest speakers. I'm now going to introduce our moderator for today, Dr. Tori Krops, who's a research scientist with a background in agriculture and also diversity and equity, and she's teaching the inaugural environmental justice course at UT Dallas. So we're very lucky to have Dr. Tori Krops here at UT Dallas and especially with us today for this teach-in. So without further ado, I turn over the microphone to you, Dr. Crops.
Thank you and welcome. Hi to everyone. Special shout out to my ODEI colleagues. I see y'all and my students who are in the chat. Welcome everyone to the Environmental Justice Teach-In Frontline Communities Fight Back. This was a collaborative effort between UT Dallas students, staff, and faculty to start a campus dialogue about economic and environmental disparities among people of color. We hope that this event will reveal inequities, help each of you identify your place in the ongoing fight for justice, and encourage more environmental justice programming here on campus. We are honored to make new partnerships and learn from local leaders bringing change in our communities. Climate change and pollution are among today's most pressing challenges, and they're intricately connected with the living legacies of white supremacy and economic inequality. Industrial pollution, toxic waste, and the effects of climate change are disproportionately distributed among historically marginalized groups. These groups often live adjacent to fossil fuel and waste processing facilities, as well as other dirty industries, which lead to increased risk for negative health consequences, such as asthma, lead poisoning, and cancer. Globally, poor and historically disenfranchised communities are on the front lines of the impacts of climate change, from droughts and heat waves to rising sea levels. Dr. Robert Bullard put a name to it in 1994 following unchecked illegal toxic waste dumps and environmental hazards placed in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and that name was environmental justice. Environmental justice is defined by the Environmental Protection Agency as the fair treatment and meaningful involvement, of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulation, and policies. This goal will be achieved when everyone enjoys the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and equal access to the decision-making process to have a healthy environment in which to live, learn, and work. And that, as we've talked in our class, is about thriving and not just surviving. Today, we will interrogate unequal environmental protection and decision-making and identify paths to combat environmental racism in Dallas and beyond. So now you've heard all of that, I'm going to introduce myself really quickly. I'm a research scientist in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. There I will help develop the climate survey. I analyze its qualitative data, and I help make campus recommendations. I also work on a National Science Foundation Alliance for Graduate Education and the Professoriate, or NSF AGAP grant, where we broadly work to develop strategies to increase the numbers of minoritized faculty. Finally, in ODEI, I help to develop educational materials for equitable hiring practices on campus. I'm also a lecturer in the Department of American Studies, where I teach environmental justice. My bachelor's and master's are from historically Black college called North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, in agricultural economics and agriculture education, respectively. I taught agriculture at the high school level, specifically horticulture, natural resources and the environment, and intro to agriscience. I'm a PhD in agriculture education from Purdue University, where my dissertation focused on the experiences of Black women in agricultural graduate programs. My research outside of UT Dallas focuses on the socialization, mentoring, and advising of graduate students of color in STEM and agriculture, Black collegiate women, and social justice education courses. And now, I would say the most important part, I'm going to introduce the speakers, and I'm going to introduce them in the name in which they're speaking. I will not introduce them again once we move on to the next person. So Marsha Jackson is a mother of two daughters, has 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Marsha is an environmental activist and guest speaker in discussing environmental justice. She has received the 2019 Sierra Club Environmentalist Award, 2020 SMU 55th Symposium Women in Profiles Award, the 2020 Juanita Craft Humanitarian Award, and the 2020 Green Source DFW Leadership Environmental Award. Currently, Marcia serves as the Executive Director of Southern Sector Rising, the Juanita Craft House Civil Rights Museum Board Membership Chair, a lane plating EPA Superfund Community Advisory Resource Group member, the Dallas-Fort Worth Chapter Women in Transit Board Secretary, member of the Friendship West Baptist Church, the Dallas County Precinct Chair, a Red Cross disaster recovery team member, volunteer deputy registrar, and is 2022 to 2024 Texas for Green New Deal financial lead. Marcia was featured in Soledad O'Brien's BET documentary Disrupt and Dismantled, which aired in February 2021. Marcia was a 2021 Dallas Morning News Texan of the Year finalist nominee. She received the proclamation from Dallas County Commissioners for Marsha Jackson Day in Dallas County on her birthday, February 22nd, and received the 2022 Texas AFL-CIO Community Champion Award. Marcia's portrait and video of her environmental activism was on display at the Dallas Museum of Arts from December 2021 through April 9th of this year. In addition, Marcia is the recipient of the 2023 A. Maceo Smith Community Service Social Justice Award. Marcia holds a master's in business administration with a concentration in human resource certification, a graduate HRM certificate, bachelor's degree in business with a concentration in management, and is currently pursuing her doctorate in public administration with an anticipated completion date of 2023. Whew. Okay. Evelyn Mayos, last point of departure. What is my computer doing? Oh, here we go. Last point of departure before leaving the U.S. as a child was Austin, Texas. She spent her childhood moving around Europe and Asia, which exposed her to different cultures, languages, foods, and ways of life. After graduating high school in Singapore, she moved back to the U.S., where she pursued an undergraduate degree in environmental science at Barnard College and Columbia University in New York City. In 2017, Evelyn moved to Dallas, Texas to pursue her interests in environmental justice and community organizing in the belly of the beast. She worked in poverty law as an advocate for fair housing and environmental justice issues from 2017 to 2021 with Legal Aid Northwest Texas and Disability Rights Texas, while also acting as chair of the board of Downwinders at Risk. Evelyn is AICP certified and received her MCRP from the University, of Texas at Arlington. She is the inaugural Urban Research Initiative Fellow at Paul Quinn University College, where she leads research and advocacy efforts to use planning as a tool to address systemic racial injustices in Southern Dallas. And last but not least, certainly, Ken Smith is the president of Revitalize South Dallas Coalition and owner of Holistic Investments. Revitalize South Dallas Coalition, or RSDC, is a nonprofit that champions economic and workforce development in South Dallas Fair Park. RSDC has been instrumental in expanding high-speed internet and improving cell phone services in South Dallas Fair Park, increasing Uber driver and passenger signups, connecting small businesses with financial resources, privatizing Fair Park, and advocating for social and environmental causes. RSDC is also known for its weekly e-newsletter that extols the value and richness of South Dallas Fair Park community. Ken is a South Dallas native and resident. He has owned Holistic Investments since 2000, a real estate and property management company that renovates and manages residential properties in underserved areas through investment, entrepreneurial advocacy, and political involvement. He serves on the board of 7 advisory groups in Texas and served as a past president at Fair Park Texas Foundation. Ken also served as community engagement officer with WINS, which is working in neighborhoods strategically, a resident-led effort to revitalize South Dallas in the areas of economic development, education, health, housing, and safety. And now I will pass it off to future Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Tori. I'm going to see if I can share this little slide, and I'm just going to kind of talk through it. And so, you guys, I'm just asking you to bear with me. I have allergies really, really bad today, and my eyes are just horrible. Um, the first is Southern Sector Rising, which we're fighting for environmental justice, as Tori explained, that I am now the executive director of Southern Sector Rising, and we also was established in 2019. Agenda is which is Shingle Mountain and Southern Sector Rising, Flora Forums, Neighbors United, the Park for Flora Forums, and the ongoing project. So Shingle Mountain, it was the nightmare on Choke Street, which was over 100,000 tons of illegal roofing shingles. And I have to always explain that because people don't understand the roofing shingles are the roofing shingles that really actually come off the house, but people just waste, throw away. And that place was just 100 feet from my bedroom home, and that's where it started at. Those shingles were supposed to have been recycled. They weren't recycled. So it's just growing, growing, and growing. I contacted the city adults, which we supposed to do. Nobody called me back. I went to a lane plating meeting in Highland Hills, and I met a young lady there, Tamika. They introduced me to Let Drop It Breathe, and that's where I met Downwinders, Evie and Jim. And that's when the advocacy started when Robert Wolosky came out. So just imagine in our community where Shingle Mountain was, our community you see is September 2017, you see all the greenery around there. Now you see November 2018, what it ended up being. And that's exactly what it looked like before they removed the roof of shingles. And that problems that um, property still have issues that we'll explain to it is still heavy lead. So just imagine all that 180,000 tons of roofing shingles right next to a bedroom, and then our homes were just surrounded. And I tell people all the time, you come out with a mask in 2020. So just imagine our community started out in 2018 and having to have masks on inside our homes. And you see the property, and that's exactly how it looks. So can you imagine that? And that's what we're advocating now. We're going to continue advocating for things like that to be cleaned up. And those are hazards that have protected. You hear my voice start fading away after a while. And that's the reason why I've been permanently damaged, because that's just ground up roof and shingles, as you can see, just the ground up area where the asphalt was. And that fiberglass is airborne. And when it's airborne, it's just flying off into our throat, and this has affected my vocal cords permanently. You'll see our neighbor, the baby, he had to go to the hospital because of this. He still had asthma problem, but not as bad. I tell people now that I'm the heaviest I ever been because of all the medication I still have to take. Southern Sector Rising, we all started the allies, and Evie and she created the neighborhood coalition, which she'll probably explain, that we had advocated, and we went to the city of Dallas. We had our allies to come up to stand with Marcia and move the Shingle Mountain, and we did that, and we had to have our voice out there for these things to happen. As you can see again, it was a 3-year advocacy, but it's 4 years because we're still fighting now from that. Um, we begin a justice, begin the cleanup of Shingle Mountain. December 2020, they said that they had the money. And the reason why they had the $1 million, it wasn't because the city paid for it. It was because CCR was sued and they had the property owner. They had to pay $1 million. And some of that fund that the city used to move these shingles, they were moved in February 2021. And we were really excited. The community was to see that happen, but we still have issues there also. Because of that property was moved, it still have heavy lead on the property as now. So that's one thing that we are advocating now for remediation. The city of Dallas said they found $2.5 million. So that is supposed to be starting in June. On our Flora Forums Neighbors United, this is our community. People don't understand when I say Flora Forums, but that's actually the name here. Our community has 3 nurseries, which no one really understand, and we are just like a family base in the community because our community is Black, Brown, Latino, Latinx, and it's just a small rural area, and that's what we want to see happen all over again. Um, this was the first neighborhood bilingual plan that was created, the help of Evelyn and Jennifer Rangel. And the community, the residents worked on this, and this was presented to the city of Dallas. We're waiting on them to amplify that crosswide in the city. We're still waiting, and we're still going to push for that for it to be known, because that's a great plan, a landmark plan. These ladies really worked on this with our community, and I really commend them for doing that as well. The Flora Forums, you see the quick facts: 87% African American, 12% Hispanic Latino, 1% white, medium income, 67% owner occupied, and 32% 0.3% renter occupied. We address the inequities. We're still doing that now. And the District 8, we still have bad zoning here. Even we're waiting right now for our authorized hearing in the area, and we're still fighting it. I think it was like 3 last week that we had to call the city of Dallas, because we still have those bad companies in our community that's working with no CO, which is certificate occupancy, or no SUP, which is special use permit. We had to go door to door and walk on and knock on the door, and we canvass our community. And what is so good about this, that we finally get our members to come out, our neighbors to come out. Because of Shingle Mountain, you can understand the retaliation from the city, and some did feel to retaliate, and they just kind of backed out. So they have voices, we're still pushing for a bilingual literature, because they have a voice, and our residents want to speak, and this is our community. So we have the creating a vision. This was when we first began to start talking about what we really want in this area where Shingle Mountain was. And you can see the community, they start building what they wanted. Everybody put into it. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful activity to see the community come together and building on these items. Exactly telling HKS, which is pro bono, and HNTB, what we really want to see in this. And so, like we said, we have bilingual interaction workshop on this. The idea neighborhood, gathering place in the neighborhood for celebrations, events, clean the creek activity, soccer, football, horse park, trail, parks and green area. This is because in Flora Forums neighborhood, we do not have any sidewalks. We don't have high-speed internet. We don't even have public transportation. And so people still can't imagine this is in the city of Dallas. It's not outside. It is in the rural, right off of 45 down the street from Paul Quinn. So we still have communities that do not have high-speed internet. I have high-speed internet because I have a nonprofit. If you have a nonprofit, that you're able to get that. If you're residents, you don't get high-speed internet. We have a community vision. Our residents, we moved here because it is agricultural. That's what we want to see happen again, or for residential living to allow this. You see the mother here, she loved her Gordon, and we have other residents love Gordon. We have our horses here, we have our animals, and this is what we want to see all over again in our community. Park for Flora Farms, and that's exactly what it is. You see, our community love to be outside. This is exactly what we want to see again. We have no park here. Like I said, we have no public transportation, so just understand the children have nowhere to go. We don't have even have anywhere to just really have a place to have a meeting, so we have to either kind of gather at a home or gather outside one of the residents' home. This is another great activity when we begin to start talking about reimagine the Shingle Mountain, the park, and you see how they're working with our community, our residents. You see how the residents are engaging, and this is bringing back out. It was giving us hope to have this dream of the park. And our land breakdown, and you can see Elmira, which is still right next door to me, where Shingle Mountain actually started, and they still do have violations over there, and that property needs to be assessed. It is private owned business. They have it up for sale for $1.8 million, and we know that's overvalue for that property here in the District 8 right next door to a residence. And the issues that we have, and I'll explain it just a little bit, is because my property is agricultural and Almira is heavy industrial. So heavy industrial shouldn't be next to a residence. And that's what people don't understand when they have that zoning. You have to understand your zoning. You know, I had to learn, Jennifer and Evie had taught us a lot about zoning, and we had to dig out when that happened. The city said that could occur, but it's not the case. They cannot be next to a residence. They have to have a SUP and a CO. They did not have that at first. They was in violation. They still in violation since July 2022, but it's not being enforced. They still have outside. The city gave them a certificate of occupancy. After all this we're going through, after all this fight we've been going to, they gave them that. They're still illegal even after they gave them that, and they're not pressing that. So those are some of the issues that we were going through. Also, now we're asking let's work together. Our neighbors united need a park. The city hadn't told us. They own that property right next to us now, which used to be Shingle Mountain. They have not dedicated that and say they would donate that to us as a park. They said it has to be remediated. Yes, we know that it has to be remediated. Either way it goes, whether it's going to be a park or anything else. But what I asked them and I asked my councilman, you haven't made a commitment to our community. Once you make a commitment to our community and say, let's get this done, you know, we've been harmed a lot. The city is behind some of that. So this is the time for you to make it wrong, make it right. So all you have to do is say, let's commit to that property and turn it back over to the community. So our ongoing projects, we're still ongoing for we're asking for a broker to come in and understand the second land tract, which is Almira, the actual value, and how do we proceed in trying to fundraise this property, acquisition of that second tract, and environmental impact assessment of the second tract, remediation of both tracks, which we know we need that, and the construction of the park. We have allies sitting there waiting on us to help support us. Just say that we're going to do that, but they would not say that for some reason. What else they're going to do with the property? It's in the community. Donate it back to the community. Let us know that you were wrong and you're trying to work with the community and make it right. We're trying to do capacity build support for Southern Sector Rise and Neighbors United, continue advocacy on our neighborhood-led planning, continue project management assistance, and support for Florida Forum's authorized rezoning. We are in our authorized rezoning right now. We still have some of these business owners out here. They still want to have heavy industrial, but what we told them Tuesday night, that we're not against your business. We're against those polluters. Those polluters should not be near a residence, and we're gonna keep pushing on that. We need your support in coming to our meetings on our authorized here. Anybody come, long as you say you're there helping support and you're concerned about our community, and that we'll be appreciative of your help. We're also Southern Sector Rising is also working with a Sand Branch Clean Drinking Water Project, and some people might not be aware of Sand Branch. Sand Branch is a small, unincorporated community in Dallas County, and it's a form of Freedom's Town. They have no running water. The wells are contaminated. So just yes, in 2023, we still have a community here in the county, Dallas County, with no running water. We have a short-term partner, and I'm sorry about my phone. We have a short-term partner. We're trying to provide water and food to the community. We do that on the weekend. We're partnering with some of the other organizations there that feed the community and take cases of water. We're planning the Sand Branch Fun Day. Southern Sector Rising is sponsoring this on June the 17th in the community. We invite our allies that are interested in coming out and help support them. We're going to have a food truck out there, and then we also gonna feed them, just have like a fun and let them know we are support. That community has been harmed simply because you have organizations come out and say that they're there to help them. They get their funding, they don't see them anymore. So you can understand why the residents are kind of leery working with people. But I have friends there, you know, and we're trying to spread this, let them know that we're there for them. We're not there to take anything away. And this is what we're here for. Our long term, we're meeting up with Dig Deep, and they been working with another community out of Texas. They're from El Paso to bring in piping in those residents to help bring water there. So just imagine now, Sand Branch is just less than 3 miles from the water waste treatment, and that community don't have water. they saying it's not enough in the community to build it because it's going to be $1 billion to do that. But you're spending that every day on parks out here, stated parks. You're bringing, so this is for our residents' health. These people some of them were pushed away back in 2000 from to leave their property, only receiving $350 to sell their property, and people want to stay there. So we're here to let Sand Branch know they do matter, and we're going to help fight for them as well. Our, lastly, we have our regional and state projects. We're doing EJ tours statewide. We're part of Texas Hub, a Green for New Deal, and we're working because we need to bring this to other residents, other cities and states to let them know environmental justice is everywhere. So we're working right now and having our environmental justice tours scheduled in Brownsville, Corpus Christi, Galveston, San Antonio, Port Arthur, Houston, East Texas. So we're working on that, and maybe here in Dallas we might can take a bus there in those different cities, but we're working with those. And we're also still organizing on our frontline leadership. So these are just some of the things that I want to bring out and let you know what Southern Sector Rising is doing as well. And thank you. I guess it's to you now, Kim. Let me stop sharing.
It is going to Evelyn.
Always a tough act to follow, so please bear with me. I'll share my screen as well. My name is Evelyn Mayo, and as was said earlier, I'm the chair of Downwinders at Risk, but I also work at Paul Quinn College. And there's some overlap in the work, but today I'll focus on Downwinders at Risk. So we are a clean air and environmental justice organization that's been around doing this work in DFW for 30 years. This is our board today. However, we've had several different boards. Marsha was on our board a few years ago, and we actually started as a group of rural mothers in Midlothian. And so this is Sue Pope, the founder of Downwinders at Risk. She was living downwind of the massive cement kilns in Midlothian and was noticing not only that she was getting sick, her kids were getting sick, her animals were also getting sick. And so that catalyzed her to act and investigate what was going on. And that led to a 15-year campaign to actually prevent the burning of hazardous waste in cement kilns. And so after 13 years, the group was successful, and it led to national changes in the EPA regulations for waste burning in these cement kilns. And there's still cement kilns in Midlothian, but and there's actually a new organization, Midlothian Breathes, that's taken up that fight. We also were involved with shutting down a kind of illegal lead smelter in Frisco that was operating up until, I want to say, 2015. So similarly, a group of residents had reached out. They were concerned about what this lead smelter was doing in the middle of downtown. It was affecting their kids' health, their health, and so we were asked to come in and support, and this was successfully shut down as well. We also were involved with the preventing a fracking of parklands happening in Dallas. So basically this was a done deal. They were going to allow fracking and drilling in parkland, and we were part of a coalition of groups that prevented that, and now the city has one of the toughest drilling ordinances in the area. We also did a lot of work around smog. But that requires working at kind of the state and federal level, which after Trump was elected, was basically not going to be feasible given how pro-industry and anti-environmental justice his administration was. We pivoted our focus directly to particulate matter pollution, which is a hyper-local source of air pollution. And this is where I got involved with the group. I moved here 6 years ago, and first joined the board at this transition point away from kind of smog and regional air pollution to neighborhood level air pollution. And particulate matter, you know, it's dust, it's small particles. And so it's a byproduct of any combustion, as well as, yeah, basically cement, batch plants, that kind of thing. And particulate matter pollution disproportionately harms people of color. So this is by nature an environmental justice and environmental racism issue. And a lot of that has to do with proximity. Like Marcia just showed you, Shingle Mountain was right next door to her house, right? That is a proximity issue around exposure to particulate matter pollution. And nationally, and especially here in Dallas, this trend was intentional. The city and banks, you know, incentivize and pushed people of color next to industry. And those same zoning and land use patterns exist today. And so what we have is a domino effect of where there's already industry, more industry gets put. And that creates a cumulative impact on public health. So this is a map of the city of Dallas in kind of white. And what you have in red is the industrial manufacturing districts, which is the heaviest zoning district for industrial land uses. Orange is industrial research, which is the second heaviest, and then the yellow is light industrial. And so pretty much you can see the industrial land uses follow along the Trinity River and then also along I-30. This up here is, you know, kind of the design district, airport, and there's very little residential in this part of the city. So the three neighborhoods that I've been involved with working on since joining the group 6 years ago, and we continue to partner with today, are in West Dallas, Joppy, and Floral Farms. And as Marcia said, this all kind of stemmed out of the Shingle Mountain fight, because Shingle Mountain really was the perfect storm of what happens when these zoning and land use adjacency issues have a worst case scenario. And so we figured as long as this land is zoned for industrial uses, there's going to be a target on these neighborhoods' backs until that zoning is removed. And so that's what launched the Neighborhood Self-Defense Project, which is to remove that industrial zoning and promote a vision that reflects the values of the community. So here you have Floral Farms outlined, and you have the former Shingle Mountain site right here. And you can see most of the neighborhood is zoned adjacent to this heavy zoning district and this industrial research district. And so if you're the city of Dallas, they were making land use decisions based on this map, even though what's on the ground reflects a totally different reality. Like Marcia said, you have these greenhouses, these nurseries, residential streets, open green space. And so, you know, we worked with Marcia at the early days of the Shingle Mountain fight to establish Southern Sector Rising, work on the creation of the Floral Farms neighborhood-led land use plan, which did involve meaningful, you know, year-long community engagement process to determine what the residents actually want the future of the neighborhood to look like. And the timing of all this was to line up with the Forward Dallas Comprehensive Land Use Plan update, which is ongoing today. So the city of Dallas is doing their citywide land use plan update, and we wanted to make sure that the Floral Farms piece was front and center, clear cut, and could be integrated with this future land use plan. Also because of the initiation of an authorized hearing to rezone that area. So we wanted to make sure that when the time came to propose zoning changes, the neighborhood felt equipped to present the vision they have. And this plan is available online, so if you're interested, happy to share it. However, when we tried, we did everything right and finished drafting the plan, and it was the first bilingual plan actually drafted in the city of Dallas. We brought it to the planning department for them to go through the motions of, you know, working with us to get it adopted, which other neighborhoods in North Dallas had done. And we were told that the rules had changed you could no longer have neighborhood-led plans adopted into policy, and that we would just have to wait and see. And so that led to the formation of a citywide coalition, which Ken is a part of, and several other neighborhood organizations that pushed for that path to policy for neighborhood plans to be restored. And so since then, that has been restored. We've had a better relationship with the planning department on promoting policies that will actually protect neighborhoods. And so, you know, we've had to organize every step of the way because we keep getting met with active resistance, right? And Marcia showed some of this too, but it's about the future, and it's about investing in the vision the neighborhood has. That is one of the principles of environmental justice. It's not just having these green outcomes, it's having the process itself become more democratic. And so by designing this future park space, the community had a chance to design a future that was obviously much more appealing than Shingle Mountain. So moving over to West Dallas, we've been working with Singleton United and the Gas Gotta Go campaign to remove GAF, which is this extremely large asphalt shingle manufacturing facility. Okay, so they actually batch and produce shingles. So similarly, you can see these zoning patterns are very similar. This is where GAF is located, and Janie and her association members, they live in these areas, okay? So they have homes like Floral Farms that are zoned industrially. And that's a fair housing issue, because if GAF were to have a catastrophic incident, let's say, and there was a fire and the homes next door caught on fire, they would not be allowed to rebuild because they are considered non-conforming uses. Their homes are zoned industrially, and so they are not allowed to use their property fully. And so I'll speak a little bit more about that later. So similarly in West Dallas, we supported the drafting of the Singleton Corridor Neighborhood Plan, same process through the Neighborhood Self-Defense Project as we did with Floral Farms. Similarly, they organized a residential association, Singleton Unidos. Their plan is also available online, and we have been assisting in this campaign to compel the city to use the procedures they have, such as amortization, to legally remove GAF. And so that is an ongoing fight right now. The company has agreed to leave, and the issue now is the timeline. They have kind of self-prescribed a 7-year closure timeline, but that's arbitrary. And the residents obviously feel there is great urgency and this should be shut down as soon as possible. So the last neighborhood is Joppy, which is a freedman town in the city of Dallas. You can kind of see the downtown skyline here, and then the community is here in the green along the Trinity River, and then all of the Union Pacific switchyard and several different manufacturers on each side. Okay, so Joppy is like completely surrounded by industrial zoning and land uses, and then the river on the east side. So we first were involved in Joppy back in 2018 when we had portable air monitors that we would train and loan out to residents to learn how to see the pollution information in real time in their community. And so we were asked to support in 2 zoning cases where two concrete batch plants wanted to be added to the community. And the data they were using to say it was safe was from an air monitor 9 miles away. So we knew that was not, scientifically relevant. And so we loaned out our monitors to get the air quality in Joppy. And the community was successful in getting these 2 batch plants denied. So after that, we committed to placing 10 stationary air monitors through the Shared Air DFW network, which is a real-time map that displays air quality information. The monitors are built by a lab at UTD in partnership with Paul Quinn College, Plano, Dallas County, and others. So we are putting a dense grid system of air monitors in Joppy, mostly on private property owners' homes, to see in real time what they're breathing. Because of those monitors, we were contacted by researchers at Texas A&M University who wanted to do a public health study to understand the impacts of pollution exposure to residents' health. And so through the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, these researchers were funded to conduct this 3-year public health study. And that's called the Joppy Environmental Health Project. It is currently led up by Alicia Kendrick, who's a Joppy resident and now a board member, in addition to one of our board members, Missy O'Quinn. And they're wrapping up the study this year, and we'll be hopefully presenting the information to empower people to have information to advocate for some of these zoning and land use changes. And so thinking about this, at the city level, this is about changing the zoning laws themselves, but also changing the placement of these zoning districts to no longer have these racist systemic impacts. This is the redlining map. We've got West Dallas here and 10th Street here and South Dallas here. And these are the same neighborhoods that have industrial zoning today and the highest pollution burdens by zip code as well today. So the coalition, in addition to Marsha's group and several others, have filed a HUD complaint against the city of Dallas, stating that there is a racist land use pattern that disproportionately impacts communities of color and prevents access to housing by, as I mentioned before, having these homes being zoned industrially. So this is ongoing. It's not a lawsuit, but it's a precursor to a lawsuit. And I just, want to emphasize this is a civil rights and fair housing issue. So even though we're a clean air group, because we are an environmental justice group, where we go, who we partner with, and who our friends and foes are, is always along the lines of, are you promoting democracy or are you inhibiting basic civil rights? So that is it for my portion of the presentation.
All right, thank you, Ken. Round us out.
All right. Thank you very much. You can hear me? Okay. I want to begin by saying Marsha and Evelyn and I did not coordinate our presentations, but because we are kind of umbilically connected, you will see our presentations are coming from the same mother lode here. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about was a little bit more about me, because it plays into this. I'm a journalist. I got a degree in communications back in 1975, and I worked as a reporter and a producer for Channel 8, ABC, PBS. And I created the video communications at the city of Dallas, that department, back in the 80s. So the city council meetings came on the air live back in the mid 80s as a result of the organization and the department that I had created. I think that's important to know, because even though I'm retired, journalists really never retire. There's just something in me that is very nerdy, and I want to get all the facts. And I think I sometimes overdo it, but it's important for me to let you know that. Also, I am not an environmental expert. I am a citizen who lives in South Dallas Fair Park, a mid to lower income neighborhood by choice. And I ran into, maybe providentially, an issue dealing with the Jeffries Myers area of South Dallas Fair Park. The city is trying to build or encourage building of about 70 homes in an area that's about 150 lots, about half the lots. Everybody's excited and wants that to happen. However, the city did not tell the developers that it was a brownfield, and the entire area is a brownfield. They didn't disclose that to the developers. So, but before I get into that specifics, I want to give you a few slides to bring this into context. Where Dallas came from, what's the geography, what is the topography, what are the demographic shifts, because all of that provides a context for what we're talking about today. All right, I think I'm sharing my screen. Am I sharing my screen? Can you see that? Okay,
Yes,
great.
Yes.
All right. This is a map of Dallas. Can you see my cursor, the green cursor? Yes,
Yeah.
no? Okay. Downtown Dallas is right here, smack dab in the middle of Dallas. Everything here is northern Dallas. Everything from here down is southern Dallas. You have West Dallas, as you just saw with Evelyn's presentation right here. You have South Dallas Fair Park, where the Jeffrey Myers issue, we'll talk about that later, right here. You have Pleasant Grove, and you have East Dallas, where you have White Rock community. But here also is I-30. I-30 is the informal separator going east and west of Dallas. It separates the north from the south. Okay, trying to advance my screen. There we go. Now, this picture is worth a billion words. This is the picture that kind of gives you a visual of the geography of Dallas. This is from the east, downtown, looking west right here. This is the Trinity River. You can't see it, but right around here is the Trinity River, Margaret Hunt Hill Bridge that brings you over into West Dallas. You cannot get into West Dallas or Oak Cliff unless you go over a bridge over the Trinity River. This is a bridge, this is a bridge, this is a bridge, this is a bridge. So most people don't realize Oak Cliff, this area right here, was annexed into the city of Dallas in 1903. It was a city in and of itself. West Dallas has always been predominantly Latino and Black. Oak Cliff, originally up until the 70s, was majority white. Integration began the movement of whites north, east, and other places. So it's important to know that background because most people lived in southern Dallas up until the 70s, which is the complete opposite of what it is today. And you have this major infrastructure. You look in West Dallas and you see all these flat rooftops and you see all of this industrial next to all of the residential. And there used to be lead smelters, smokestacks of all kinds here and still are, including the GAF plant. This is a very interesting picture. Most people don't see a picture of downtown from the south. If you're coming in from Houston on I-45, you're going to see this great wilderness right before you get to South Dallas and downtown. That is where our landfill is. McComas Landfill has been there for decades. It is right not too far from where Marsha lives. It's in kind of a rural, rustic setting, but you still have the major landfill right in the southern sector in the Oak Cliff area of southern Dallas. Another interesting picture from the south looking north, downtown, I-45 moving into Dallas. This is the very first wastewater treatment plant done in Dallas, right next to Cadillac Heights, which is a residential neighborhood. And here is the water and sewer treatment plant, one of 5 or 6 that we have. Joppy is somewhere over in this area. Here we have a satellite view straight on top. All of this is Joppy right here. And Joppy used to have only one way in and one way out. Now there's 2. But it's built right next to Martin Marietta, a defense contractor, International Body Shop, Austin Bridge and Road, construction company, Tamco Building Products, just separated by one little highway. Now, let's move further north. This is Lamar Street. Lamar is the westernmost border of South Dallas Fair Park. South Dallas Fair Park is right by the State Fair, the Cotton Bowl, all that. That's in a low-income, moderate area. But the western side of South Dallas is Lamar Street. Literally, the street runs from Oak Cliff all the way to downtown. It's 4 miles, but 3 miles of Lamar Street is nothing but heavy industry with homes across the street. This is what you see in Lamar. Power grid stations, old rusted warehouses. Very interesting. This is Lamar Street. You have all these metal and recycling companies for 3 miles on Lamar. And this is a complicating factor. You have all of these people bringing in their scrap. This is the way they make their living. People do scrapping. They pick up metals from other buildings or whatever, and they go and weigh them here and they sell them. This is jobs and employment for people, which is a very complicating factor for those who are environmental justice. It's not just about the environment, it's also about the people in the environment. This is the old Procter & Gamble plant. You look at that and you say, well, that's a historic picture from the 1950s. I took this picture last week. This plant still exists. It doesn't operate. It belongs to the DISD. But when we were in school, because I'm born and raised in South Dallas, the fumes from this plant would cover all of South Dallas, and DISD would either let school out or hold kids inside until the fumes from this factory dissipated. This picture, taken 2 weeks ago, shows you all the trucking traffic because the entire area, 3 miles that align South Dallas, is nothing but heavy industry with houses across the street. Rock crushing company right on Lamar. Another company that sells metals, and you see all the people who are working here and delivering, and they get paid on the spot when they deliver, 20 pounds of copper or whatever, they get paid right then and there, and that's part of their income. Now, let's get into the Jeffrey Myers area specifically. Jeffrey Myers is in South Dallas Fair Park, immediately south of downtown. This area is the Jeffrey Myers area. Please pay special attention to the landmarks. This is Merlin Street right here. This is Jeffries Street right here. This is Myers Street. One of the landmarks to pay attention to is the Martin Sprocket's Foundry. This foundry has been operating since the 30s, and it is literally right next door to where the city of Dallas is proposing to build houses all throughout this area. But there are 6 properties that align with this building where you are literally within arm's length of the outside of the factory. This is the DART Maintenance Center that used to be the Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe Railroad that is now DART's maintenance facilities. All DART buses and cars and trains get repaired right here. This is a city lot owned by the park department. This company produces mattresses and pillows. This is the post office. Very important to remember these landmarks. This is I-30, which separates Dallas from left to right. This is a grid of the Jeffrey Myers area. 150 lots in this whole area. The city wants to develop all the lots that you see in white and yellow. White belongs to the city of Dallas, where they've chosen 3 developers to develop these lots in white. The South Vera CDC, Community Development Corporation, owns these properties in yellow. When you combine the white and yellow, that's about 72 properties out of 150. So about half of it is where the city is looking to develop. Pay attention to these 3 lots right here. They belong to the city of Dallas. They're right next to the foundry. This is the overview of what's happening. The city issued, I'm going to read this verbatim. The city issued an RFP, which is a request for proposal, 4 years ago to find community developers to build 39 houses. The city lots are surrounded by about 100 additional lots owned by private people and by nonprofits. The environmental studies show groundwater contamination throughout, as well as soil contamination and new plumes or discharges of contamination. But the city did not disclose the contamination to its bidders. They found out after they submitted the bid. The city wants the developers to clean up 39 lots while the adjacent privately owned lots remain contaminated. Also, an active foundry is in the area. Move on to the next slide. So we have groundwater contamination. City reports say that it's contaminated. We have area businesses previously, like the post office and DART, that had to get special permission to build their buildings because of the contamination. The city did not disclose the contamination to developers until we told them that they were contaminated. We told the developers ourselves. The city never told them. The city did not know about the contamination because the people in the housing department were all new, and HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Department, had requested that all city employees in the housing department be moved to another department because of his years and years of malfeasance. The city will not pay for alleys, lighting, sewer taps, and curbs. They want the developers to do that. This area was hounded by illegal drugs and 100 homeless camps, and the foundry did not have an industrial designation. It had a residential mixed use zoning. So there was some shenanigans there, and there are hazardous materials being delivered and hauled away on this in this area every day from the foundry. So these are a few facts, and I'm going to kind of try to wrap this up pretty quickly. This is Oak Lane, where you see the DART facility right here. And so the houses are right over here next where this truck is. This is the post office, and you can see the empty land here, which belongs to the city of Dallas. This is the foundry, the active foundry. This is a side view of the foundry, and these are the lots that we mentioned earlier. These are owned by South Fair, these owned by the city of Dallas. Look at this next picture. On one of the properties, we are literally standing at 2522 Myers Street. This is the fence. You put your hand through here, you can touch the outside wall of the foundry, and inside you can hear the blast furnaces melting chemicals and forming other products. They make vehicle transmission parts in this facility, and you hear a constant roar from the furnaces. And this is the lot, one of the lots that the city owns, that they want to build a $250,000 house with this as your backyard. Also, the foundry parks illegally. To look at this blue truck, you'll see this blue trailer, you'll see it again shortly. You have apartments right next to the foundry. This is the other end of the foundry, where you have a private railroad running into and across residential streets, and the trucks move in and out of here, and the city owns lots right here and right here. This is a truck backing up into the foundry on a residential street. And I won't show all of this, but this is an actual video we took of a truck backing in over 2602 Myers Street, where a house will eventually be. How you're going to manage trucking over a railroad that is privately owned on public streets, and trying to make sure that this is an area where people want to live, I doubt it. This area was plagued by drugs, but we are glad to say that the city and others got in there, and they're demolishing this apartment. You had 16 units, each was selling drugs, each one closed down. Filled with, the lots over there were filled with homeless. There are no homeless there now. There was illegal dumping everywhere. There is no dumping now. And I show this lot because EPA will not allow the city of Dallas to apply for its funds for this lot because it holds the city of Dallas responsible for the contamination. So even when we asked for money, the EPA said no, until the city takes responsibility, we can't cooperate with them. So this is the results after 4 years, and this will be my last slide. No houses have been built in 4 years because we've held it up. The 100 homeless camps have been removed. The drug apartment have been closed, fenced, and being demolished. The city has cleared the property of dumping. Additional environmental studies have been approved. TCEQ, that's the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality, has approved one of the developers' cleanup plans for 13 of the lots, not all 39 or all 72. New housing policy has been initiated that increases the infrastructure of funding for low-income communities. $500,000 has been allocated by the city manager for cleanup in the Jeffrey Myers area. The city manager has allowed for $250,000 in air monitors throughout the city. We've gotten brownfield grants for other areas that don't belong to the city. And now the city requires all land sales to disclose their environmental issues. So we have been able to make some headway, but there's a lot more to go. And I will leave it at that. And thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I have learned a lot. And so thank you for sharing with us. It sounds like Shingle Mountain's been somewhat of a catalyst for a lot of environmental discussion. And so I'm going to go down and briefly give some thoughts. I appreciated hearing in more detail what happened with Shingle Mountain. And it was wild to me to hear about folks having to wear masks inside their homes and all the medical issues that came about. I enjoyed hearing more about Southern Sector Rising and hope to see some collaboration in the near future. And I especially appreciated hearing about the community work and the canvassing that you all were doing. And we've been discussing the importance of community input and community and local knowledge and decision-making in class. And so that was some connection. And I also saw connection where we've been discussing beautifying and increasing green spaces while not taking care of folks in the community. And so Evelyn, I appreciate hearing about the work Downwinders at Risk has been doing to stop and prevent industry from polluting the community and its resources. We've been talking in class about gentrification and how minoritized communities have to leave and move to other parts of the city since they can't afford to live in their neighborhood. And now they're moving to places close to industrial areas, a connection through all three, of course, zoning. And I really appreciated hearing about the bilingual neighborhood plans, making sure that they're accessible to everyone in the community. And Ken, I appreciated hearing more detail about Lamar Street and how close folks are living to these heavy industrial plants. And it's so unfortunate to hear about like the fumes that would engulf the community. And again, probably people wearing masks inside their house, masks to go outside. And it's anger inducing to hear about how they plan to put housing right next to industry. Like, I don't understand. So finally, I appreciated hearing in detail about the specific areas and what's happening. And selfishly, all of this is informative for me to plan for next semester. But also, as I get to know the city better, I've only been here since August. So as I get to know the city better and how I can integrate into some of the community action, I really appreciated hearing. So I have a question, but I see that there are questions in the chat. So I'm gonna come here first. I saw Brielle, one of my colleagues. Hello, Brielle. Thanks for being here. She wanted to know, is Dallas really interested in furthering fair and equitable treatment in the name of preserving democracy or being active inhibitors of justice?
I'm going to take a stab at that. I'm going to try to be brief. It's both and. Listen, you can be the world's greatest scientist, like Dr. Kropp. You can know everything there is to know about everything. And unless you know how the government works, the structure and the context in which they work, and you have partnerships, you're not going to get anywhere. There is a heartfelt desire with the city manager and council people to do the right thing. then they fight the structure that exists with the city of Dallas or the way we are structured. And it's hard to get past that. We have people who are really helping and want to help us. They may even be department heads, but they can't fight the structure. And a Dallas structure is you have 42 departments operating under one umbrella. It's almost like trying to manage 42 companies. How can a city manager even do that? It's almost impossible. So the intercommunications between the department is very poor. And when you need answer above and beyond what the code department can do, it just sits there because nobody interweaves the correlation between different departments. So the desire is there, the action is not quite there, but the goal is to try to keep it moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Hi, I actually have a question. My name is Jayla. I'm just a student at UTD, and I don't live on campus. I live in North Dallas near Park Lane. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but my community is definitely not there as far as sustainability efforts and just keeping the community clean. How to Marsha and Evelyn, I wanted to ask you guys, the situation is not as dire as you guys were, but how do you get your community to care about these things through, canvassing and that engagement? How do you get the community to care?
I'll jump in there, and I know Evelyn probably adds more contents to it. When we first started, nobody was even really speaking but me, but when it started affecting your health, then you start having people join in because my neighbor ended up getting sick. We didn't even know ourselves. We was just coughing, thinking it was allergies. So when these things start prolonging, people want to get involved, but they are actually afraid also. So we find this often here, not only in my community, but other communities. Then you see people, they just get disgusted because we might have our elected officials are not even trying to help out, at all. So I wouldn't stop. You as a leader, that it take you to even get started, and then they see you doing the work and you start having people join in. Just as I was telling you earlier, when I first started, I had nobody to help at all, and I just said, y'all fighting this will not helping us. So they did invite me to the meeting where Evelyn was and Jim was, and it take people to come out that you might not know to come out and speak us also. So you could start this yourself, and then you work with other allies in the community, in the city, and that's where you begin to start growing, and you also bring in people in your community to have their interests as well.
Mhm.
This
Okay,
is this is a little something that is, it may seem so totally insignificant. Start small where you are, and when you have meetings, have a little repast, have a little chicken wing or some cokes or something. You would be surprised that people will come out when there's a little something to eat, and it makes it homey and folksy. And it's also one of the things that breaks down interracial barriers. Food. It sounds crazy. It really works.
Thank you. I like that.
Okay. There's another question from the chat. Could West Dallas be declared as a non-attainment area for PM pollution?
Yes, it totally could. And that's part of what we are trying to push for. We've set up those same shared air monitors in Joppy, also in West Dallas, and the city of Dallas has put some monitors up. Their monitors are not, the data is not publicly available. They've claimed they will be making it available, but don't know when. So part of the steps in doing that would be to understand, document the data. But based on just the purple air monitors, which are very low cost sensors that we've had in West Dallas for a few years now, yes, they would be considered a non-attainment area for PM pollution. It's a great question.
Thank you. I'm sorry. My name is Adrian. I really wanted to get the answer to that question, all because I am a resident and born and raised in West Dallas. And for some time, I have, smelled certain foul smells, or even with my family history of being affected by the lead, they did receive checks and stuff. So I truly appreciate the answers. And with having the resources in front of me, I truly appreciate, you guys answering that for me.
Of course, and honestly, Adrienne, I would love to, if you're interested to be involved, we would love to hear from you and be connected with you and whatever family members you have in West Dallas. And that's a non-attainment, for those who might not be familiar. It's basically like, think of it like illegal. Like there's levels that you have to be within according to different standards that are put out by the Environmental Protection Agency. And so right now, the particulate matter pollution standards are actually being changed. So if you look at, what doctors are saying, it's very, very low, the amount of pollution exposure that is deemed unhealthy for people. But the EPA is weighing their options on what to lower that level to. We like to say there's no safe level, right? Because at the end of the day, that's true. But the EPA will be adjusting that standard, hopefully lowering it to the levels that public health experts are telling them they should. But we will see. But yes, Adrienne, we would love to be connected with you, and if you have the interest.
Awesome. I'll stay connected.
There's a comment that I want to acknowledge from Kaylin, where she said, "I'm appalled that people in Dallas do not have access to running and potable water. Just wow." And I also said wow earlier in the chat because, like, what? So y'all keep the questions coming. If you have a question, you can unmute, you can put it in the chat. I'll ask one in the meantime, I'm preparing to write a paper, and I'm reading about eco anxiety, and it's specific to young people feeling like we're on the verge of an apocalypse, feeling like they have to clean up our mess, basically. And so do you have any advice or words of encouragement for young folks? And when I'm saying young folks, I'm thinking like 25 and younger, who are interested in the EJ movement, but are also feeling overwhelmed by everything that's happening. And some of my students have mentioned in class as well, like, well, what can we even do at this point?
I'll touch a little bit on that. Oh, sorry, Ken, go ahead. Did you want to go, Ken? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, just that I grew up in that generation too. I'm over 25, but under 30. And fear is fuel to some degree. I see doing things and feeling effective. It's equal parts about the outcome as it is a coping mechanism, I think, to a lot of chaos that we grew up with. So I think being involved locally helps make problems and problem solving more tangible. So there's a lot to gain personally in the context of, I think, anxiety, politically, environmentally, otherwise, by working with people across races, genders, incomes, geographic areas. I mean, to me, this is one of the best ways to feel grounded and not panicked.
Yeah, I figured Evelyn would probably jump in there since she had students, but just as just as I met some of her students also, I find that they are very interested in the EJ movement, and some do feel overwhelming. But I think that the ones that I have met, that when they do come out and when they hear the stories that we're going through, that even make them feel more eager to get involved. So I always tell everybody that once you hear that story, what people actually going through, that touch your heart even more, and that motivate them more. So just continue those storytellings, and that's what we do anyway. Even and I enjoy EJ retreats, storytelling, and getting more involved. And that'll help because, you know, I'm 65 years old and I have a lot going on, but what keep me going is to understand the health that we're fighting for the community.
It's relationship building. It's just like dating. You don't marry the first person you see, I don't guess. You date. Um, I'm as a person, I'm pretty much a loner type of person. And it takes a little extra for me to go out and make relationships. It may come as a surprise to people, but I'm pretty much a solitary person. But all of a sudden, I hear and get a chance to meet a Marsha Jackson. Who's that? That's the lady with the shingles. I don't even know how I met you, Marsha. Here comes Evelyn Mayo. I forgot how I met Evelyn. But without them, they don't even know how much they have helped in the Jeffrey Myers area just by getting to know them. And don't take it on by yourself. You have a gift and a skill. You're shaping that in college, so you have a pretty good idea of what it is that you do well and what you don't do well. Just practice what you learned, and other people will fill in the gaps in the areas where you don't have strength. That's a family, and that's what Downwinders is. That's what Marsha is doing. I learned it's last to the table, but slowly learning. It's about community and family.
All right, Heidi had a question.
Yes. Oh, let me just also put my hand down just so that it's down. So thank you. This has been this is one of the first. So I'm a faculty in, I guess now we're called the School of Arts, Humanities and Technology. But I came from South Carolina, University of South Carolina. And, you know, what I was very curious about, what I missed here when I first got here, and then we went into COVID, was the conversations about community, about neighborhoods. University of South Carolina was in the midst of, they were able to expand at the cost of a large Black population. And I spent a lot of time with the former Ward 1 persons talking about stories. So when I'm hearing people talk about stories, so I'm curious about, you know, to what extent are these environmental concerns already bound up with a historical project that has to do with regentrification, urban renewal in the Dallas areas? And thinking back to what Marsha Jackson is talking about and what Ken Smith is talking about what it means to share story, collect story, have that on file. How do you present that? How do you build community through those narratives? I'm a new media scholar, so I've always, we were thinking about a mobile application that would bring these stories to visibility, but I'm just curious because it seems to me that it's not new. This is not a new question, right? And so I would like to have a better understanding of the history of the question, because it can't, you know, you're talking about 2012, maybe earlier, but it has to have gone back to mid-century. Because that's, and I'm wondering if there are people who have narratives to say about these kinds of questions that it might be worth going back to those persons and just building a larger collective of relationships to bring to bear what it means to be thinking ecologically now. What does ecological thinking look like? Is it simply environmental, right? And whether you have good air or not, or is it something bigger than that? And I'm curious if you guys could talk about that, because this is the first time I've heard people talk about neighborhoods here. Like you know, I'm just so excited about people talking about the fact that there are neighborhoods.
Let me just say one thing. Neighborhoods in Dallas, I'm 70 years old, so I think I'm the oldest one on the call. I've been around and have seen all of the different things that have happened with the migration, the integration, the segregation, all that sort of thing. You can't talk about environmental issues as if it's in a bucket by itself. It is connected with zoning. It is connected with racism. It's connected with classism. All those things are together. And I think telling stories, Marsha, you said the right word, telling stories. We were told in journalism school, just don't do facts, tell the story. During the Vietnam War, the news would lead with 18 men got shot today and killed, Americans got shot and killed, and nobody paid attention because it was so desensitized. But when they said Marshall Jones from Anaheim, California was killed today, you personalized it and you knew who he was and he had a history and a family, and that got the involvement of the legislative people who had to become involved. Dallas does not have a strong history of neighborhood stability. We put people where they were. The growth from 1920 to 1930 was 300%. The growth from 1930 to 1940 was 120%. Dallas has been exponentially growing and it didn't know how to handle it. So it just put people where the infrastructure was and extended it instead of master planning. This is not like Chicago where you're in this neighborhood, you're now moving from there to here to here to there. We don't even know what the nomenclature is. We can't get the term South Dallas right. We say South Dallas and people think it's everything 200 square miles. And it's just this little area right by downtown. So we're building on some real flaky foundation, but it's up to us now as an opportunity to say, let's correct the past.
I would love to continue these conversations if you were interested,
Always.
Okay. Is your email available?
Oh, I'll just put everything in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one last question. I think Jayla was next.
Yes, ma'am. I think this will be a good closing question, but what are some small steps that I can take now in terms of, well, I guess just what are some small steps I can take right now to help my community?
And I would like to add to that, I want to kind of fold in Mahini's question because I think it's important.
Mhm.
What can students also do? What are some small steps that students and neighborhood folks, community folks can do right now?
I jump in and then Ken might add to it also. What you can do now that we have a neighborhood coalition that we have right now, and that consists of different, I think maybe 50 different neighborhood coalitions in the city of Dallas, and you can join that. We have we're also on the steering committee. I think Ken is on the steering committee, and Evelyn and myself. And then we have it open for the other neighborhoods. So you can leave your email address or you can contact us, and we'll let Evelyn know she can add you on a distribution also. And then as the students that we just met, we had UNT students this weekend. Sorry, UTD. One with UNT. So UTD, I have to thank because I have so many. And then the University of Michigan has reached out to us also. So what I just tell you guys to just kind of stay involved. We have a volunteer link on Southern Sector Rising. You can click on that and then let them know that you do want to volunteer with organizations. And they came out this weekend, and we worked in Sand Branch and passed out water. My organization donated the U-Haul truck and load up the water. And UTD Dallas had they came out and they bought pouches of water. So these are just some simple things. So we had a follow-up call for our planning for June the 17th, and they wanted to join also. So what they're going to do, and you could take an initiative in your own organization, your own student body at your college. They're going to walk in the neighborhood and they're going to knock on the doors and ask them what else do they need, and so they're going to make a checklist. And these are just some simple things because my organization is looking right now just for like a short-term water. Like I stated before, we're thinking about buying those 270-gallon water tanks and provided to the residents that don't have water. And then we're also thinking about renting a portable water tank, and you can fill that up with $500 or $1,000 gallon of water tank, and we can go back and refill those for the residents, special the seniors or somebody don't have transportation, instead of just the water bottles. Because you know, when you take water bottles to residents, just a 16.9 bottle ounce of water, it take a lot of water for them to take a bath, you know. And so we're just thinking about those gallons of water tanks that be able to have, and putting a dispenser on the water hose. So they're going to go out and speak. We have another organization out there in Sand Branch. They raise money for some hydro panels, solar panels, and that's just draw the mist in. When the mist come in, that's supposed to be able to bring water. Some people say they like it and some don't, but then you still have residents that don't have them. So this is another alternative. We'll try to help get them water until we can continue working with deep dive to get those pipe draws in there. So this is what it takes for us all to get together and to collaborate together and strategize and organize. So this is the first approach that you do, to just reach out and work with other allies. That's how we had to organize. When I say we work in national and regional, it started here locally, my organization. We represent districts 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the city of Dallas, because these are the most highly environmental injustice areas. So it have grown. I am now the financial lead of Texas for a Green New Deal in the state of Texas. And that's the reason why we're going regional and national. So this is what it takes to start growing. You start small, you start working with allies, you build a rapport with everybody, and then you start growing. Don't be shy. Let me tell you, I always worked in the community. I worked behind the closed doors. But when it had to take action, you have to step forward sometimes. And that's your beginning, you know. And so this is when you start organizing. And this is another reason why I decided to study for my doctorate, because when I'm sitting at that table with them, I want to let them know I'm just as educated as they are. So when you be able to talk, I can talk that same game. So this is your beginning and this is your start. You're going to motivate yourself and you're going to motivate others as also.
Thank you so much.
All right, and that is all the time that we have. Thank you all for the great questions. There are lots of links and info in the chat. Make sure you check that out. And so on behalf of the Office of Sustainability at the University of Texas at Dallas and the UTD Arts, Humanities, and Technology Teaching Collective, we are so pleased that each of you could make it here today. This meeting has been recorded and will be posted to the UTD AHT YouTube channel. Thank you for your time and commitments to a sustainable and equitable future. You all have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Wonderful job.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
See you around.